Hi there. My name is SLindsay, and I am here today to talk to you about onboarding. So first, I just want to share a quick story about an onboarding experience that I had. About 7 years ago, I was offered an internship at Systems, which is a high-tech company based here in Rhode Island. And prior to joining Systems, which from here on out I'll call DS, I did not work in high tech. I actually worked in healthcare, and I had also worked at a few banks and a few credit unions. So I had zero experience in the tech industry. Now, I was brought on to help manage the partner program that they had with the brand I worked with. And at the time, the brand had about 110, 120 software partners that it worked with. And there was one woman who was running that program, and she needed some help, which is why I was brought on. So I joined the company, and on my first day, I was given a laptop, some login credentials, and then this woman, we'll call her Jane, booked a couple hours with me to basically train me, and then she kind of just sent me off to the wolves. So the training didn't go so well. She ran through it super quick. I tried to take as many notes as I could and ask as many questions as I could while I had her attention, but it was incredibly difficult. And suffice to say, probably the first 3 to 6 months was a pretty awful time for me, and I felt probably more stupid in that time than I ever have when I've started a new job. So it was a really kind of crushing experience for me. Now, that being said, contrary to a lot of the research and some points that I'm going to make in this presentation, I did stay with the company, and I was with them for about 6.5 years. So I guess sometimes a bad onboarding experience does not make an unproductive employee or an unsuccessful employee, but oftentimes that is not the case. So first, let's go into what is onboarding. So onboarding is a systematic process to establish a positive trajectory early in a person's career. So what does that mean? Basically, it means that it's a process by which an organization brings on an employee before they arrive, gives them information they need to start, and also when they arrive on their first day, and anywhere from 1 day to a year, is onboarding them, bringing them up to speed on company culture, on job expectations, on company policies, and just making sure that they are really integrated with that organization. So typically there are 4 phases in onboarding, and there's pre-arrival. This occurs when the person, they've been offered the job, they've accepted it, they haven't started yet. So there's some things that go on in the background where we get them set up on whatever tools they need, whether that's a laptop, software, applications they need access to, and so on, making sure that their desk is set up, or if they have an office, that's set up so that on their first day that they are set to go. And also pre-arrival means letting any sort of key stakeholders that are going to be working with that person know who's going to start, when their start date is, and any relevant background information that might be needed. So orientation, this is where we bring the new employee in, we give them their new hire packet, which includes any sort of paperwork they need to fill out, sign, any sort of confidentiality agreements, and so on. In the assimilation phase, this is where we teach them about company culture, where we teach them about what their expectations are in their role, and we set some short-term goals for that person. And then finally, the integration phase is where we start setting some long-term goals for that person and help them really sort of start seeing the trajectory of what their role is going to be within this company. So what's included in this onboarding? In formal onboarding, it should contain at least the following. So new hire paperwork, company policies, compensation and benefits, employee handbook, and training. So policies that are really good for people to understand, especially on their first day, is attendance. So what's expected for attendance? When are they supposed to arrive? When are they supposed to leave for the day? What are their hours like? Are there scheduled breaks? What's lunch break like, etc. Conduct. So what's sort of the expected conduct at work? They can generally see this in the employee handbook, but they'll also see it when they arrive at work and see how they're treated by employees and how employees treat others, as well as how they treat customers. Policies also include safety and security, any sort of time off notice. So how does their PTO policy work? How does sick time work? Is there a dress code? And also electronic use. So what is the telephone and internet policies? So also included on onboarding is understanding payroll and compensation. So help them understand their compensation package, help them understand who can answer any questions they might have about compensation and benefits. The handbook, this is basically just going to give them a written form of expectations and policies. And then of course there's training, which is informal or formal. So the training that I received in the story that I told you about was definitely very informal. So there's some themes that we have in onboarding, and the biggest one, which I suppose I should have put at the top here, was focus on success for the new employee as well as for the company. But ultimately, onboarding is there to help the new hire feel welcome and supported. This is something that I did not experience when I first started at DS. Help the new hire understand company culture, help the new hire understand expectations, and help the new hire become productive quickly. And remember that onboarding is an ongoing process. Like I said, it could last anywhere from 1 day to a year. So why is onboarding so important? Well, my little picture here is covering this up, but it says, this quote here says, a bad ending follows a bad beginning. So it's imperative to set up the new employee for success. This is not only imperative for the employee, but also for the company. Companies want to hire people that are successful, because if the employee is successful, the company is successful. Onboarding is important because it can help obtain buy-in from the new hires. In fact, Cisco, they do a 2-day training, which helps orient and excite the new employees. It helps them understand, or at least it helps them be happy about the decision that they've made about joining Cisco. Salesforce also does something really cool where when they hire employees, they fly them out to headquarters in San Francisco for a week. And the first day of that week, they have that new employee volunteer at a local nonprofit organization, which they set up. And then the rest of the 4 days is basically training on who Salesforce is, their company policy and culture, and then also products. It's been shown there's a strong link between a good onboarding experience and the employee's future success within the company. In fact, new employees make a decision within the first 3 weeks to stay with the company. It's also important because it teaches the new hire about the company. It helps them feel welcome. It gives them expectations for the role. It helps them come up to speed quicker, which means that they're more productive quicker, and it increases employee retention. So what are the possible results of a poorly designed onboarding program? If an onboarding program is designed poorly or doesn't exist, there are a number of things that can go wrong, such as high turnover, no buy-in by the new employees, and just an overall bad experience. Our textbook says that oftentimes organizations have poorly developed onboarding programs which are brief and uncomprehensive. And this can leave employees feeling confused, frustrated, stress, and uncertainty. This is something that I experienced like immensely when I joined at DS, and like I said, when I still think about it now, it kind of like gives me a little bit of heartburn, because I will never forget that feeling. I felt like I was thrown to the wolves. In fact, about 1/3 of all new hires leave their job within 6 months, and this can be improved with better onboarding. So going back to the themes, one of the biggest ones is feeling welcome and supported. And if someone feels that from the outset, it's going to really improve their impression of the company and hopefully get them to stay with the company for as long as possible. So how can onboarding impact the company culture, the fit to the company culture, employee retention, and career planning? Well, it helps the new hire understand what's expected from them. It helps the new hire understand company culture. And if the new hire understands the company culture, they can make decisions in their career to align with the company culture and policies from the outset. So in other words, once the employee understands the company culture, they know how to behave, they know how to make decisions that benefit the company. It improves employee retention. So how new employers handle the first few days and months of a new employee's experience is crucial to ensuring high retention. So going back to that previous stat that I had, about 1/3 of all employees leave their job within 6 months of the hire date. That can be improved with better onboarding. In terms of career planning, by starting off on the right foot with onboarding, a new hire is set to be more productive with their team. It can help them set short-term and long-term goals that fit within the role of the company. And it can also show how the new employee contributes to the organization while also advancing their career. So why do organizations choose to do onboarding? I think if that's not understood by what has already been presented yet, I guess I'm just going to really like hammer this home. So it helps increase employee retention. 69% of employees are likely to stay 3 years if they've had a great onboarding experience. And conversely, on the negative side, it can cost 1.5 to 2.5 times the annual job salary to lose an employee. So if an employee does not have a good onboarding experience and they're part of that 1/3 that leaves within 6 months of the hire, that's costing the company a significant amount of money. So if they invest in these new employees from the outset and get them started on the right foot, it'll be really good for both the employee as well as the organization. It generally just creates a good impression for the new hire. It makes them feel like they've started at a company that's very well organized, that cares about their employees, and really wants their employees to be successful. It helps set expectations from the outset, expectations from the new hire, as well as expectations from the organization. And finally, onboarding an international employee based in the U.S. So this is like slightly different and doesn't really tie in with the themes that I was talking about before in terms of onboarding generally, but it is something to consider as we are a much more global world and we have a global workforce. For example, I would say that about 50% of the people that I work with in my company now are not U.S. Born people. So it's just, there's a very international workforce happening. So if you're a US based company and you're hiring an international employee to come work at your US based company, you should do your research on that person. How long have they lived in the US, or have they lived here before? Have they ever worked for a US based company before? So basically, it's understanding who that person is before they join, so that you're not treating them as if they know nothing, or if they don't know much about the US, you can give them all the information they need. So something you can do is some cross-cultural training. So go over typical American customs. This is something like, basically like how we feel about personal space. Go over American expectation in terms of time. So fluid versus fixed. So what I mean by that is there are some countries that view time as very fluid and others that view it as very fixed. The American culture is a very fixed culture in terms of time. So there's that saying that I think it is a very American saying that if you're not there 5 minutes early, then you're late. That's a very American sort of theme. Whereas at my previous company at DS, it's a French-based company. And anytime we had meetings with our team over in France, they were at least 15 minutes late. And to them, that wasn't late. That was just them showing up when it was on time. So helping that person understand the customs will help set them up for success. Something else to do is maybe explain the benefits a little bit further, such as insurance and the 401k, because this might not be something that they had in their home country, because maybe they had like the health system they have in England, where basically it's provided by the government. So they've never had to pay for health insurance. Same goes for the 401k. So just basically making sure that they understand all the benefits that they get working for a US-based company. And then lastly, something that could be really important, especially in terms of communication, is setting up one-on-one meetings with key colleagues. So typically when US-based companies hire international employees, they're really highly skilled employees. So they're oftentimes brought in at a higher level. They're not entry-level employees. So they're either going to have a team already in place for them, or they're going to be setting up a team. So they're going to have a lot of sort of like cross-management, cross-department interaction. So making sure that that person has one-on-one meetings with these colleagues from the outset will help set them up for success in the future. Something else that can really help is making sure that when these key colleagues meet with this new hire, that they are these people that are already employed by the company understand that they need to be very candid and honest with that new hire. So if maybe there's like, department turmoil, or there's some sort of issues that are going on, that's brought to the attention of the new hire, so that there's really no surprises when they come in, and everyone's on the same page from the beginning. So that's onboarding. I think that it's extremely important to not only success of the company, but for the new hire, because when someone joins a new company, if they don't feel supported, if they don't feel welcome, if they feel completely lost, if they feel thrown to the wolves, if they feel like they're drowning, this is just not a good beginning. It's not a good first impression, and it's not a good way to get employee buy-in or loyalty. So here are my references. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and I look forward to seeing your responses.